In this episode, we'll go through what we've learned studying Ali Abdaal and his techniques.
And we'll share how we've applied it to our YouTube channels and the results we've seen from that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Nick and Sanjee podcast, where we go through tips and tricks on how to grow a YouTube channel as we ourselves go on that journey. Welcome back, Nick. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm feeling energized. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Exciting topic about how and what we've learned from studying Ali Abdaal. I think we've both been big fans of Ali since the early days of our YouTube channels, and there's a lot we can learn from him. And and he's been around for a while. I think we were just chatting beforehand. So if you don't know who Ali Abdaal is, you've probably seen at least one of his videos on the internet at some point. Even if you've not clicked on it, you've probably seen his face. He's got about 5 million subscribers. He's done 800 videos, and he started about 7 years ago. And his big niche is really around productivity productivity for busy people, let's say. He's also done quite a lot of work around how to get started on YouTube, how to become like a part-time YouTube creator. He's done a lot of courses on that. I was actually part of one of his courses back in the early days when he released that back in 2020, I believe. So in this episode, we'll go through some of the things we've learned and also how we've applied them and some of the results we've seen. We've got about 9 tips that we want to share. We'll go through them pretty quickly because they are pretty straightforward things. And make sure you do hang around for our tip of the week. I think it's going to be quite interesting, and it's probably something that Ali, if he watched this episode, would appreciate, because I think it's something he himself often reiterates. So let's get into it. So the first one, and this is a really obvious one, but I'll call it out pretty early, is around it's really important to be consistent in uploading your videos. Even looking at Ali's stats, he's put out about 800 videos over the last 7 years. That's an average of about 2-ish or a little bit more than 2 a year. That's some pretty crazy, two a week, which is some pretty crazy consistency. I think both for you and me, Nick, having been in the YouTube game a while, consistently putting out 2 a week is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. We were talking just before about how I was comparing it to my own upload schedule and the amount of videos I've put out, which is 1 a week. And I've been doing YouTube for about 4 years, and he's been doing it for 7. So he's done about 14 years of my upload schedule, which kind of puts it in perspective. And I think that it's kind of encouraging in the sense that I think, it just shows how much content you need to put out there, in order to, I think, develop your own skills and ability, and your writing skills, all the different skills that are involved in creating videos, and also just the amount of videos out there increases the odds that people are going to find your content. So the more videos you've got out, the more content you've got out, the more spread and reach you've got, the more likely people are to find you. So yeah.
Super important. I think we all sort of agree 1 a week is probably the key thing that everyone sort of kicks off with. I think Ali has said 2 a week is pretty good for growth, and then 3 is great for growth but very hard to sustain unless you've got a full-on team. Something I haven't looked into, I think that was his I didn't actually check if that number contained also his shorts. Actually, that's probably a very good point to call out.
Right.
Because shorts are probably not too hard. Well, we've actually talked about it. They're as hard.
Yeah.
But shorts, if that number also includes shorts, so understandable. You can maybe pump a few of those out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. So the next one is around the importance of understanding your audience. Now, this is something I learned from Ali and his team in the early days of doing the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, was really sitting down and understanding what is your typical audience member like, or what are some 2 or 3 categories of audience members that might be watching your videos. So the first one is really around sitting and understanding your ideal person, who actually wants to click and watch this particular video, and who will keep coming back to watching your videos, who are going to be your true fans. So for me, it's going to be people who are really interested in share investing, but also just generally improving their life. It's also likely going to be mainly males. I think male audiences do often end up speaking well to male audiences initially. And then it's also going to be people who are going to be similar to my age group. So mid mid 30-year-olds, maybe going a little bit older. But I do think I probably attract a few of the younger 20-year-olds as well, who are interested in getting started in their investing journey, probably wanting to hear from someone who's a bit older, who's been on the journey so far. And then naturally, it's going to be Australians, because I do speak primarily to Australians and to the Australian investing context. So I guess I wouldn't say it's by design, it's just been the natural default ending up. But yeah, that's probably me, and understanding that. Then there's also going to be a category of people who are not necessarily going to be my true fans, but are going to see my videos and would pop in to actually have a look and say, oh yeah, I've seen this guy around. I wonder what he's going to be talking about on this whole investing thing. But they're probably not going to subscribe, but they will watch my videos every once in a while. So yeah, that's a big one, is really having a deep understanding of your audience, and then that would help you play out what your videos and targeting what your videos should be like.
And I think that's something I kind of learnt from Ali via you, Sanjee, was that whole concept. Because again, I think for me in the earlier days, I was just creating a whole bunch of content that wasn't necessarily one niche, or definitely wasn't one niche. But I think as I've progressed and figured out what types of content I like to make, what types of content I don't like to make, I think figuring out what that audience is that I'm trying to cater to has really helped me focus my content. Because I think before it was quite scattered. There was a lot of variety. But figuring out, okay, I want to make content that's going to help small business owners and individuals. That I want to target people who are just getting started in content creation, people who don't have a lot of background in videography and that type of thing, video editing, all that type of stuff has really helped me focus. And then it's also one of the biggest benefits I've found is it helps me come up with video ideas a lot more easily, because if I'm thinking about who's this actually for, I know that they've got specific problems that I can help with, and then I can write a huge list of different video ideas that I can make. Whereas before, when it was general, it was just like, oh, where do I start? So yeah, that's definitely a very important part.
Yeah, definitely the whole idea around, once you know your audience, the ideas do start to flow a lot easier, and how you structure it, the level at which you'll speak at, especially if you're talking to beginners versus super advanced. Although I've rarely seen stuff on YouTube that is super advanced. I think people most end up, realizing YouTube is for the sort of the intro audience. But yeah, it's probably, once you get into the super advanced, maybe then you're putting stuff behind a paywall, or you're creating courses and all of that. So yeah, super important to understand your audience, and it makes sense in any kind of product environment. You need to know who you're selling to.
Yeah.
The next big one is around the importance of using lists. So if you look at a lot of Ali's videos, they're all list ideas. And I say the importance, but I think if you are starting out on YouTube, start with just lists, doing videos on lists. So meaning 3 things I like about this, 5 tips about that, 7 tips on here, 3 tips I learned on X. Very easy things to do, to sit down, to hammer out the ideas, and then very easy for someone to watch and learn about. The only challenge with that now over these days is someone can easily start watching a video and then just look at your timestamps and figure out all your tips pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I've seen some people manage this by rephrasing their timestamps to being tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, tip 4. And that way they kind of force you to hang around a bit. I'd encourage you to test out what works with your audience. Timestamps are handy in long tutorials, but if it is a tips thing, then naturally it'll get someone to click on your video, but they may not hang around, or they might just jump around and be like, "Yep, I know that, I know that, I know that. Oh, I haven't heard of that. I'll just skip to that video." At the end of the day, they're getting value. You're not getting them watching everything, but hey, they're getting value.
Yeah. Another way I've found to break that down is to give the main sections of the video as timestamps, and then have the subsections not listed. So they sort of know what they're expecting, which I think helps them want to watch the video, because they know, okay, I'm going to get this out of the video, but they don't know exactly what they're getting. So I think that's helped. But yeah, using lists, even just for script writing, it makes it so much easier. Definitely. And I've even got one of Ali Abdaal's. I still use the skeleton of Ali Abdaal's script writing template. I still use that to this day. So yeah, definitely really good.
There's a lot to be said about the power of Notion and Ali's usage of Notion, but
Yeah.
we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
So then so I've got two tips left, and then we'll come on to some of yours, Nick. So second last one I've got is the importance of building a team to make YouTube more fun and sustainable. I think this is probably going to
Mm.
have overlap with stuff we've talked about in the past. I think Ali has said when he hired an editor, that was probably the single biggest thing that really helped him
Mm.
in the early days of the channel. But I don't remember how long he said it took him to get to that point of hiring an editor. Naturally, it's very nervous because you have to pay someone, and if your channel's not really making money, it's just an additional outlay on top of your time.
Mm.
I think Nick, you and I have both said in the past it's important to start editing your own videos because you get a feel for what's realistic, what works, you get a feel for your style. Casey Neistat has said, sometimes you make the video in the edit. So you just
Mm.
film a lot of stuff and then you figure out what the video is going to be in the edit.
Yeah.
I think if you're limited for time, that doesn't always work. It helps a lot if you've thought about everything before recording the video and then editing it through.
Yeah.
So it can go either way. But yeah, I think there's a lot around. It's hard to make YouTube sustainable, especially at 2 or 3 videos a week, one man band or one person band. That's really hard. So if you can build a team, whether it's a contracted team or an employee team, do it as soon as you can. But everyone, us included, we all acknowledge how hard it is to financially get that person on your side because it's hard to pay for someone when you're not earning that much money anyway.
Yeah, and I really admire the fact that you got onto an editor quite early. I think it's definitely, I can see how it's helped you. I think that's one thing I wish I'd done is I wish I had outsourced when I was still working like in my old full-time job, because then I could have, the money I was making from YouTube was essentially disposable income on top of my full-time income. So I could have just used that to build the channel and got it to a better place before I went full time. But because I didn't do that, I'm now in the position where my income from the channel is also my my life income, how I pay the bills. So it's harder. It's harder for me to take the jump now, whereas it would have
Yep.
been easy before. So I think if you're watching and you're thinking about outsourcing and you haven't gone full time yet, then I definitely recommend doing it. I think that I wish I'd done that looking back. But yeah.
It's the single biggest, I think, value for money. Because the other stuff you might do down the track might be a thumbnail editor, a script writer, a general admin assistant, all these people. And then Ali goes even more because he's got a whole business and thing related to it. Whereas I think to run a YouTube channel, you probably only need a couple of people, but the editor's definitely your single best person. And it's hard to find a good editor as well. So I think it's worth having a panel of editors. I'm in a bit of a tricky situation currently. I don't think I mentioned this to you, Nick, where my editor is, I think, is not as available, let's say.
Right.
And, it means I have to get back on the tools potentially or, something else. And people have expected a certain standard from me, which I can't recreate myself,
Right.
which is a thing when you have an editor. So there are downsides, and we can talk about that in a future episode. So that's it from me in terms of some of my tips. Nick, how about you? What are some of the things that you've picked up watching and learning from Ali Abdaal over all these years?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that I remember learning from him, which seems really basic to me now, but maybe isn't that obvious to people who are just getting started, but really thinking about my retention in my videos. So he taught a lot about making sure you keep the viewer engaged, and then also having a strong hook and intro, so that people are like instantly, wanting to watch the entire video. Because obviously the benefit of that is the longer the retention time, so the more people watch your videos, the more it's going to get recommended by YouTube, because it's basically a signal to YouTube saying that this video is engaging people. It's probably a good video. We should push it more. So I've really built that into my my whole strategy now, is trying to increase retention on videos and then going back and analyzing what didn't work for retention. Like you can see in your YouTube analytics with the retention graph, you can see where things dropped off, and I'll go back and analyze, okay, what did I do in that section that made people click away? And then I'll look for sections that have high retention. I'll say, okay, what what made that part of the video particularly engaging, and they'll try and replicate it. So that's definitely a big thing that I've gotten from Ali. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other advantage of the retention review and noticing it is around it tells you which parts of your video are things that people are skipping forward to as well, which I think is super handy to know, because I learned a lot of the time looking at my retention graphs that my intros were too long. They were just too long, and I just needed to get straight into it. People already know what they're getting, so get straight into it, and then I could see, oh yeah, people like those sections, so I should focus on that in the future. So yeah, that's something I've also learned from retention.
Yeah, and I think that was something specific he even talked about, was making sure you don't waffle on too much in the intros, which, yeah, it took me a while to learn, but when I got there, it made a huge difference. So that was definitely a big one. And then the next one was just, I think one of the biggest things I got from Ali was just the inspiration that really anybody can do YouTube and make it full time. Because I don't know, like, I think I'd watched other YouTubers, people again like Casey Neistat or Peter McKinnon, and you look at them and you can tell they've got just like raw talent. Like Casey Neistat is just an amazing storyteller, really good filmmaker, and then same with Peter McKinnon. He's obviously very talented, very creative, and so it's hard to imagine yourself as a YouTuber when you sort of compare yourself to those sorts of people. But looking at Ali, I mean, obviously he went to Cambridge University and that type of thing, but he struck me as more like a regular guy. You know what I mean? And so I think that really inspired me. Oh, okay, like if he can do it, then maybe it's possible for me. So yeah, I think that was one of the biggest things I got from Ali, honestly. And then I think the next thing was just making sure I focus on setting my values for the channel and setting sustainable and achievable goals. Because I think, again, one of the biggest things I've found in the past 12 months, even the past 2 years, really, since I've gone full time and just before that, was I had to figure out how to make it sustainable, not just in terms of money, but in terms of like mentality. Because, man, there's been times, especially in the first 6 months of last year, which I've talked about a little bit before, where I just really wanted to like quit. Like it was just mentally draining, like trying to make it work, not knowing if it's going to work, stressing about, whether the next video is going to work or not, that type of thing. And so I think one of the things Ali, again, has really emphasized over the years is making sure you've got good values behind it, good reasons why you're wanting to create content in the first place, and then setting goals that are in line with those values. And I think I've definitely found the more I've thought about my values and reminded myself of the values, and then reminded myself of why I'm wanting to create content in the first place, that's what's really made it sustainable for me. And if I hadn't done that, I think I would have given up with YouTube a long time ago. So yeah, that's definitely been really, really key for me. And then I think the last one, which is relatively practical, and he was the first one who really, I think, taught me about it. And I've learned more from other YouTubers since then, but that's just the importance of building an email list. And we've done a whole other podcast episode, so if you want to hear more about building an email list, then check that. Ali was definitely the first one that I heard from, and I started one, I don't know, 3 years ago, slowly grew it, and it's only in the last 6 months I've taken it seriously, and I can really see the value in it. And so again, if I had really put effort into growing my email list back 3 years ago, I think it would be a lot bigger now, and I'd be able to earn a lot more income from it and that type of thing. But yeah, another big sort of I don't know, like key point that Ali really taught me about the fundamentals of starting a YouTube channel and creating content, making it sustainable. So yeah, I think those are the four main things that really stuck out for me when it comes to what I've learned from Ali.
Yeah, and I think, Nick, listening to the last couple, probably one additional one we can throw in would be around the importance of diversifying. So, and that can mean a lot of things. So, first of all, in terms of revenue, it's very hard to rely on AdSense. AdSense, which is the money you get from YouTube ads, is very variable. It's very easy for that to disappear for whatever reason YouTube deems it, or if the traffic and attention is just not there. And then secondly, diversifying just helps you connect with people outside of the platform as well. So it's great. YouTube as a platform is great, but you are only able to access your audience through YouTube. But if you have things like email lists or whatever it is, Instagram accounts, whatever it is out there, that's another way where you can engage with people outside of YouTube. And especially the email list is a great way where you've got a direct connection without any platform needed to
Yep.
connect with people. And you'll be surprised. Like I think in the early days when we started as YouTubers, we're just not sure if people actually want to hear from us.
Yeah.
But I think an email list is a great way to actually identify over time who
Mm.
wants to be in your inner circle, who wants to be part of your journey, who wants to be connected to you in some way. Because I'm someone who doesn't let emails hang around for too long in terms of my subscription. Like if I've stopped listening or reading you, I will unsubscribe you. Like you don't disappear. I just straight up unsubscribe you. So
Yep.
if I'm still reading your emails, I'm listening and I'm interested in your content.
Totally.
Awesome. All right. So we will move on to tip of the week. So this week, the tip is around the basics of title and thumbnail. And my tip here is make sure your title and thumbnail work together and they're not just repeating each other. So, for example, something I've often seen, especially in the personal finance space, is someone will say top 5 ETFs for Australia, and there'll be like text in their thumbnail, and then the actual text in the title for the thumbnail is top 5 ETFs in Australia. So they've basically said the same thing on the title and in the actual picture of the thumbnail. So try to make them a bit different, try to make them complementary. So for example, here's one that I can see from Ali Abdaal. I know if you're listening to us, you won't see this, but I'll describe it to you anyway. So when you look at the video that he's got in the thumbnail, the actual text on the thumbnail is, and what to do about it. So you're instantly getting prompted in this idea of, oh, he's asking or he's answering a question. And then you look at the actual title in the video, it's why you feel lost in life. So it's basically you're scrolling through. This is obviously not something that you would search. It's something that would appear on your homepage. You're scrolling through and you see him with the title or with the thumbnail text saying what to do about it. You think, what's he answering? And you realize, oh, he's answering the question that we all feel at the start of a year, which is why you feel lost in life. Another example is something from Drive Tribe, which is really around cars and connected to the team that used to be a part of Top Gear and currently Grand Tour. And it's got a picture of Jeremy Clarkson standing on the side, and it's pointing to, there's an arrow pointing to a car. The car is blacked out, so you can't really see the car, you can just see the shape. There's an arrow pointing to it saying 1,700 pounds, and there's in big bold text, it says new car exclamation mark. But that's all that's in the actual picture. The actual title in the thumbnail, in the actual text in the thumbnail is, we've bought Jeremy Clarkson's favorite hatchback for just 1,700 pounds. How bad is it? And whatever it is in there. So it's actually quite good where they've said, your attention's going to get grabbed by Jeremy Clarkson being there. It's going to get grabbed by the fact that it says new car and it's only 1,700 pounds. And then, so your eyes have been caught by this, and now you're going to be looking at the actual title to get a bit more detail. And I can tell you, I've actually watched this video, and I'm pretty sure I didn't see Jeremy Clarkson in there saying anything. Like, he doesn't actually appear in the video as part of the main content. They've pretty much just used him to say this is something he's referred to in the past,
Right.
but he doesn't get interviewed. He's just referred to in the video.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
No, I definitely think there's a lot to that. Making sure the title and thumbnail work together. Because I mean,
Yep.
we said it before. It's like 80% of the video, 80% of the effort should go into the title and thumbnail, and 20% to the video.
Yep.
And yeah, like I've heard people talk about how it's really the packaging of your video, and if the packaging isn't good, nobody's going to open it. So yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack and research and learn about titles and thumbnails in terms of making it appealing. So that's good.
Yep. So that's it for today. Thanks all for joining us and making it this far in our episode. Please do hit the like button, subscribe, Check us out on all our platforms. We're across all your major podcasting platforms and here on YouTube. Please check out some of our other videos where we talk about do YouTubers need websites and the power of having a newsletter. They're all there in our little back catalog. We've got an episode coming up on how you can diversify yourself. So not just being on YouTube, how you can diversify yourself into other areas, which we think is quite important, both from our own experience and what we've seen and heard from other YouTubers. And please feel free to leave any comments or questions below. We're looking to do a Q&A episode some point in the future, so we're just collecting a few questions and out there that we can help answer in the future. So, Nick, where can people find you outside of this episode?
I am on YouTube, just Nick Kendall. And then my newsletter is Create Better. So you can sign up to that using the link below.
Fantastic. And I'm on Sanjee Sen on YouTube as well. Sanjee Sen on Twitter and Instagram. And and you can find me through some of the links I'll put in the description below. And hey, if you're interested in also starting a podcast, we've got a link below to the platform we use, Riverside. Feel free to use that link below. It helps us with supporting the channel going forward. Bye for now.
Bye for now.